Thank you very much, Aaron, and I want to thank Dale and Lynn and Carla and Jody and Beth Ann for all of your service. It is very important that to do a common job, we have a common language and a common understanding, and what you do for each other and for the cause of elections in Ohio is very meaningful, and so it's great to be together and to have a chance to talk through the issues that we all have a responsibility for and care a lot about. I really enjoy what you did, remembering some of the those who've passed on that were part of this family. I think that's a nice thing. I also enjoyed the Cub Scouts. It was funny to watch the challenge of long flagpoles and short arms, and to look at the kids get through all that. I really am enjoying my time as Secretary of State. I have really enjoyed getting to know a lot of you. I have tried to learn from your experiences as you're sharing with me the challenges you have at the local level. It's very helpful to me as I'm trying to do my job to have that interaction. It's been very valuable. I know that a lot of you have a wonderful relationship with Pat Wolf. She has been on extended leave with my office to care for her husband, but we hope and look forward to her return soon, and you should know all that. I also want to thank Laura Pietenpole for her work in putting this together today. My remarks will be somewhere in between the length of the State of the Union and the entertainment value of a Republican debate. So it's somewhere right in between there. But I wanted to start out just looking back a little bit at the last time we were all together. If you recall, we were at the summer conference, and we were eagerly anticipating action by the legislature on the election law to modernize our elections, to make them more secure, efficient, and effective. And if you recall, we had hoped that the primary would be moved from March to May, and we anxiously awaited action on the congressional redistricting. That's where we stood, last summer when we were together. And I think it's safe to say it didn't turn out exactly like any of us had hoped. But we now face a referendum on the election reforms that were contained in House Bill 194, which puts into question if and when we will implement those reforms. And a combative and prolonged redistricting process brought us maps at the 11th hour and a March primary. So that's how it all ended up. A lot of work, and that's where things stand. And I want to be clear, but I want to make a couple important points. What we need in 2012 is more stability and less drama. More stability and less drama. Especially when it comes to the election law. And as a result, I want to tell you a little bit about what I intend to do. I'm going to encourage the legislature to repeal and replace House Bill 194 rather than go to referendum. And let me be clear, I want the legislature to repeal 194 and start over after the 2012 election so that we have the rules that we have now in place, no changes. But we don't need the confusion. We don't need the confusion that will come by debating a referendum at the same time we're trying to inform people how to vote. That will be confusing. We need not have it. And again, no more midstream changes. We'll do this after the fact, but repeal and replace is what we need to do. That's not all that's on my reform agenda. I will also aggressively push to change the apportionment process, as I have in the past. How we draw legislative and congressional maps has to change if we are going to change the culture of our politics and our government. And I look forward to working with reform-minded legislators and advocates from both parties to fix this broken system. We don't need 10 years from now what we just went through. But as we look at 2011, I want to congratulate all of you for a relatively smooth 2011. I don't think that there were any major issues despite the contentious nature of some of the issues that were being discussed that occurred, and you should all be very proud. More than 3.6 million voters participated. That's a 47% turnout rate, virtually without incident, as I mentioned. One of the highest turnouts ever in terms of number of voters. I think it may have been the highest ever for an off-year election. It was also a success because we kept the attention focused on what it should be, the candidates and their ideas, the issues and their merits, and not the process of election. And that's what I hope to do again in 2012. It's a success, as I said, we want to build on, and this will take a lot of pre-planning and hard work. I know 35 days out, people start voting, 45 days for military voters, but there's a lot we have to do between now and then. And as we look forward to 2012, as elections officials, we must assure the people of America that our nation will not experience the nightmare of the 2000 presidential election, particularly as it went in Florida. If it is a close election, it's likely that the next president of the United States will be determined by the outcome of elections in Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio. And no matter what political party you are, as an election official, I think you all hope for a blowout, right? At least one way or the other. And these states will have the most scrutinized election system in the world, and we in Ohio must and will meet every test. And I'm confident that you will help us do so. In times of tight budgets for state and local officials, we will be working for a higher standard with fewer resources. We must be efficient with limited resources, but also be clear with our county commissioners and legislators about what it takes to ensure a smooth 2012 election. I want to be helpful in any way I can to ensure elections are cost-effective and efficient, but also fully funded so that we can meet our statutory and constitutional obligations. All of us in this room, along with more than 40,000 poll workers, will have a huge task ahead of us, but we will be ready and we will succeed. We will have that can-do attitude and we'll get it done. It was once said, quote, "A citizen of America will cross the ocean to fight for democracy, but won't cross the street to vote in a national election." Well, in Ohio, they need not cross that street. We are going to make it easier to vote in 2012 than ever before in our state. Every registered voter in the state will receive an absentee voter application by mail, essentially creating a voting booth at every kitchen table in our state. I knew you'd see it. It's not a kitchen table, it's a refrigerator. It'd probably get my attention better being in the refrigerator than it would be on the kitchen table. But this statewide mailing ensures that uniformity from county to county will help reduce the chance of long lines at the polls. That's one of the many upsides of doing this in a presidential election. Now, let's talk about the mailing details. The mailing will go out in early August. We ask that all counties work with us to have voter information as up to date as possible by the 4th of July so that we can include as many Ohio voters as possible in this mailing. And, 4th of July, that's when we're going to have a cutoff. We have to have a cutoff deadline somewhere. We have to pick a date. That's as good as any Independence Day. It's about freedom and it's about voting. Do your work by then in terms of updating your voting files is what we want to tell the voters so that we can get this done. As I mentioned, it will be part of our education efforts, the 4th of July deadline. We want voters to make sure that they change their address and update their information so that they will be ready to vote in well of the November election. Mailings will be personalized to each registered voter, including their voting address on file as of the 4th of July and barcodes where applicable. This will make it easy for you to process and for us to ensure the accuracy and security of the ballots that will eventually be mailed out in 35 days before the November election. So we're going to try to make it as easy and simple for the voter and for you as possible. Though the mailing will come from the Secretary of State's office and be funded using the state HAVA dollars, applications will be returned directly to the county boards of elections. It is important that you start thinking now about how to handle what will likely be a significant increase in the number of absentee ballots by mail, and I encourage you to call our election staff at the Secretary of State office to help formulate your strategy. Now, as 2012 comes, we got to talk a little bit about provisional ballots. In 2012, we can expect more voters, including many who have not chosen to vote since the last presidential election, and inevitably that means more provisional ballots. Much of this can be solved by the voter updating their address, and believe me, I will continue to push for a modernized system of online voter and change of address capabilities to hopefully make this easier in the future. But we got to encourage as many people as we can to update that information, because our ability, your ability, is only as good as the information the voters provide us. In 2010, there were 105,000 provisional ballots cast. Of those, 90% were counted. Nearly half of that remaining 10% were not counted because these individuals were not eligible Ohio voters. Just what the system is designed to catch. So we're only really talking about 5% of all the provisional votes where we really have challenges. It's small, but that 5% caused confusion and controversy, and we want to minimize that as much as possible. This makes it all the more important that we use the time between now and November to be prepared. And we want to educate voters and remind them of their responsibilities, to register 30 days before the election, keep the information up to date, and bring the identification that they need to the polls on Election Day. Be vigilant and keep the voter files up to date, providing good data in our statewide system that drives the tools many Ohioans will be using. The statewide voter lookup and polling place locator both can be found at myohiovote.com. And we're going to try to make this as easy as possible, and hopefully we are. And if you see challenges, you see problems, early feedback's good. Early feedback we can fix. Late feedback, it gets hard. So make sure that you're telling us, you're giving us that feedback. Well, things will always come up, and we will need to be nimble. I told you we'd put the directives out early so you could know the rules of the game in time to implement them. On January 4, 2 months before the primary and 10 months before the general, we established by directive a uniform system for the casting and counting of provisional ballots. I think we have a slide up there with the new form. We developed the form and then met and shared it and designed it with the help of interest groups receiving positive feedback. So we just didn't do this in the comfort of our office. We took it out there. We talked to the advocates that like to have an opinion about these kinds of issues and gave them a chance to give us feedback. And to my knowledge, we didn't hear any complaints, and the things the suggestions that we were given that we could incorporate, we did. We prescribed a new form and envelope that streamlines the information you must collect and reduces the opportunity for mistakes. Instead of having some here and some there, it's clear what you need to fill out to have your vote counted. With the rules in place this early, you'll have plenty of time. Well, I know that some of you will be using this new form in March, but all of you will need to use it for the November election. With the new rules in place this early, you have plenty of time to become familiar, and we hope avoid the costly confusion and disputes that have come after the polls close. Let me take a moment to touch on the military and overseas voting. Through our Military Ready to Vote program, we have stepped up our communication with military and overseas voters to ensure that they have everything that they need to participate in the upcoming election. The program uses email and social media updates to ensure military and overseas voters know the deadlines and the procedures for requesting and voting their absentee ballots this year. A one-stop website, ohiomilitaryvotes.com, is in place where they can get answers to their questions and download an FVAP form, among other things. Since we launched MRV in August, we've received applications from Ohioans in 25 different states, the District of Columbia, as well as Afghanistan, Guam, Germany, Japan, South Korea, Spain, and the UK. We are also proud that Ohio is one of the first 7 recipients of an Electronic Absentee Systems for Elections, or EASE grant. EASE grant, it's easier to say than it is to, an EASE grant is easier to say than it is to, for me to try to pronounce without reading it right on through it. But that grant made it available for federal voting assistance program, for the was made available by the Federal Voting Assistance Program, FVAP. See, anytime you deal with the military, I got all these acronyms that I have to deal with, and I know from working with folks at Wright-Patterson, I'm never very good at that. But the $1.8 million grant we have will enable Ohio military voters and overseas voters to better utilize technology to streamline the absentee voting process from registering to vote, requesting an absentee ballot, marking the ballot electronically, and processing the printed ballots that will be returned to you at the county boards of elections. And more information about this is available on our website. The key to all this, honestly for me, is that when I was out there the last time around after the presidential election, I heard from a lot of military families and military personnel that felt like this system didn't work for them, that their votes weren't getting in and they weren't being counted. Now, a lot of that was misinformation and perception, but we're bending over backwards to erase that perception and to ensure confidence from our military and overseas voters, particularly those in combat zones that shouldn't have to worry about this process. And I'm real proud of what we have been able to do with your help and with the assistance from the folks at the federal level. It's going to go well in Ohio this year. Yeah, thank you. Precinct election official recruitment, something that I know you all care about, and we're going to try to help you with that. We know that that process is high on your list for preparation in November. I will be traveling around the state in the next few months to do voter education and outreach and to help you as you encourage more Ohioans in your counties to get involved in becoming precinct election officials, or PEOs. We'll be sending you a recruitment material in the next few weeks, and we will be launching an online sign-up at peoinohio.com and to collect information about precinct election officials, and which will then forward to you and help assist you in your efforts. We hope to do our part to make that a little easier for you. A couple of housekeeping items that are worth noting to this group. We have the board reorganizations and an oath of office ceremony. And I want you to know that we will be having many new faces in 2012, and I saw the hands go up. A lot of folks have been new to this process in a trying year, but it's trying. But I think we're going to do fine. We're getting prepped and ready. And as you go through the board reorganizations with the county political parties, I want to remind you that on February 27th, we'll be hosting an oath of office ceremony at the State House for new and newly reappointed board members, and we hope you can all make it down for that. I think we're going to try to work with Speaker Batchelder in getting the House chambers to be able to do that. Summer conference will be conducted regionally. Now, if you like this idea, you can thank my staff. They came up with this. We have decided that instead of making you come to us, we'll come to you in this busy election year. We want to try to make things as simple for you as possible. We will still be working through the details, but we are going to schedule these regional trainings in the month of June, and these will be one full day rather than 3, so you can keep your focus on your presentations. I think we're going to try to do 4 of them. 4 of them? See anybody back there? I see a couple heads nodding. 6 of them? 5 of them? We're going to come to you, and it won't be far to drive. Let's put it that way. And we're going to try to help you out by making it easier and less costly on you for getting what you need out of us from the summer conference. As I close, I guess there's a couple thoughts that I'd like to leave with you. Democracy is not something that just happens at election time, and it's not something that just happens with one event. It's an ongoing building process. It's what we do every day in our jobs as Secretary of State, as elections officials. But it also ought to be part of our culture and part of our lives, and that's a little bit what I think we're all trying to do. But unfortunately, there will be those who want to manufacture electoral chaos as part of their political strategy. It just happens. It happens from both political parties. You need not look any further than the fundraising mailings that they send out to their advocates to hear them talk like that. We'll be on guard against those efforts. I want you to know that. We will be ready for them. They will not throw us off course by working, and we're going to work with you closely together, anticipating problems, following the law, and responding with just good common sense. You're going to hear a lot of hyperbole about voter fraud from one side and voter suppression from the other, as I mentioned a lot of times in the fundraising materials. Let me be clear. Our aim is to effectively balance the ease of voting with protecting the integrity of the ballot. We will not allow voter suppression. In fact, we are making it easier than ever for Ohioans to participate in the 2012 election. They don't even need to leave their homes to vote. But we also will not tolerate fraud. We will follow the law and guard against those who seek to game the system, and work with local prosecutors and the Ohio Attorney General to actively pursue and prosecute those who engage in voter fraud at any level. We have our work cut out for us, but I have confidence that all of you will work over the next 10 months to put us in the best possible position to run a good presidential election, as all the eyes will be on Ohio. And in closing, I want to encourage you to remember, I want you to remember, and more importantly, to remind those who interact with voters in your respective counties that what you say and do is how our democracy will be perceived by the people of Ohio. If a young lady arrives at the office or a polling booth and is a little confused, take a little extra time with her. Smile and help her out. If you do so, she will be more likely to have enjoyed the experience and come back the next time to be part of our democracy. And remember, this process seems easy to all of us, but to some voters, it can be very intimidating. Treat them like a customer. Let them know that they are welcome and that we care about them. It is how we do our part in making voting it's how we all do our part in making voting the uplifting experience it should be for the people of our state in the greatest democracy in the world. Thank you very much for all you do, and I look forward to working with you all the rest of the year.